Welcome to the Dear Rochester Retire Well podcast with David Pulcini from 6 Point Financial Partners. In this podcast, find your path towards a brighter financial future with David as your guide as he helps individuals, educators, and healthcare professionals explore ways they can build wealth while minimizing risk using a multifaceted, comprehensive approach to personal finance. Are you ready to take the first step towards a brighter financial tomorrow? Let's get started.
Folks, in this episode, it is the final episode in our series of the 6 points of financial planning, which for the sixth time is where our name came from. Again, our firm name comes from what we believe to be the 6 major points of financial planning. And if those 6 points are covered, improved upon, reviewed, our clients should see financial success. I have to say should there, even though I want to say will see financial success due to compliance reasons, right? So which our guest today will appreciate fully. And again, those 6 points are: number 1, investment planning; 2, risk management; 3, retirement income; 4, estate planning; 5, tax planning. And today we are going to talk about just one of many custom goals that we hear from our clients and prospective clients, and that's getting financially organized. So I know that many of you that are listening are thinking, yes, I need to get organized, or it would be so nice just to have everything on one page that's so easy to see and go through. So I have the perfect guest with us today, Mr. Adam Holt. How are you, sir?
I am great, David. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem. Before we get into helping people get financially organized, how did you get into the finance industry and ultimately become the CEO of a financial technology company, or what we would call fintech, which is a fun word?
I think I just got lucky.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
No, I went to a job fair once, and
Yeah.
well, it's funny. Out of college, I was working for the government. I realized after about a year of that wasn't the place for me. And I went to a job fair, and I've met some people in financial services. I said, well, I'll try this. And lo and behold, I spent 23 years in the business of financial advice, built a practice like you. Very proud of what you've built. It's awesome to see how far 6 Point has gotten and grown. Like you, tried to figure it out, innovated, created my own brand, and built a firm in Philadelphia, where I'm located. Yeah. My own process, Asset Map, came from my background as a burgeoning architect. I wanted to be an architect when I left college. And so I drew everything, David, and that's what happened. Started Asset Map, and it literally went viral. And so now it's being used literally around the world. It's pretty insane, actually.
How many advisors are using it right now? You know,
right now we have 5,000 advisors. We'll probably get to 10,000 by the end of the year. It's literally it's taken over. Right now, Asset Map is one of the highest rated financial planning tools out there, just because it's so different. As you know, it's literally tries to communicate quickly what's going on in people's lives.
I have to tell you, it is amazing that out of everybody that I've talked to in financial services, and you know this, I am not sure any of us that started 20 years ago or longer went to school for financial planning. We have engineers, architects. Yeah. And you just kind of fall into it, right?
It's true. Well, bringing our skills to, you know, what's really cool about that though? I think we can also relate to consumers, right? Because we had the problem ourselves, fixed it, wanted to help other people fix it, realized there was an opportunity to teach and educate people. And of course, be part of that journey with them on something that's such a big need, help people with their finances and the decisions. Because there's a lot of decisions that we need to make, aren't there?
Too many to even go through. So I even have, like, within the 6 points of financial planning, just because of the way that I think, we have checklists with hundreds of things just underneath the 6 points. So hundreds, I mean, it just compounds and compounds. And the further people get into their financial lives, the bigger the decisions are and the more they need to make. So before we get into helping people get financially organized, which I want to go through, this is one of those ideas. Asset Map in general is like, you look at it, and this is one of those ideas, because I did this way before I saw an Asset Map. And it's one of those things. It's like, you look at it and say, someone must have done this by now, right? It's like all the brilliant inventions come from like, somebody must have already done that, but you actually did it. So can you explain to the listeners, like, what Asset Map actually is, and then even get into like, how did you have the idea for it?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, all of us, that you and me and everyone on the phone and everyone overseas too, we all universally have this problem. We we try to, by the way, I should say this, if we're in a capitalistic society, okay,
All right.
I should clarify that. So it's not everybody on the planet. We all are probably aware of our inventory, our financial stuff that we collect. I think the interesting thing about we'll call it our traditional ways of looking at our financial decisions was you get a balance sheet, I guess, and here's your assets and your liabilities. And if you have never been trained in that, you kind of don't know how to navigate it. It becomes intimidating. Maybe you go to Excel, you list out your financial stuff and your account numbers, and it's really not transferable to anybody else, right? Nobody else can kind of figure out your chicken scratch. Maybe you have a list, a little notepad, or on your iPhone, you got to list your accounts. It's just horrible, disorganized. And the problem is that we've never taught even our children or us as adults how to actually organize. And so as a financial advisor who came from a different world than financial advice, where we get pushed into balance sheets and these awesome forecasting tools that are so dense and 80 pages, and we love them because it helps us understand a client, but it's no different than a doctor running an MRI on it. Like, we don't know how to read that thing, right? So I realized what was happening is that even my wealthiest clients, they had so much complexity. Think about it. They had not only them and usually their spouse, but their kids involved in their family. They had maybe parents, maybe they had family businesses, real estate, trusts, a company, a business partner. They bought some real estate with their brother one year, and they've got a bank involved. There's a lot of people that are involved in our financial household, right? And when you add up all their financial junk, you got assets, you got debts, credit, income sources, big expenses that are going to go out of the household. You got insurance policies. Nobody ever pays attention to those. A life, disability, long-term care. Nobody understands half of them. And so they never get on a single expression of value, a treasure map, if you will. They just don't make it on there because nobody's been taught how to organize this thing in a way that I can hand it to somebody and they're like, oh, I get it. You've got stuff here, there, and the other ones, and we know where it's located. And so what I was doing is to help our highest net worth clients, I would say, look, I made this map for you. I took my drawing skills and organization. I said, okay, I got it down to the simplest expression I can think of, right? We call this simple rich. It's simple enough that you can hand it to your kid and they're like, okay, I get it. You got an account at Fidelity for $100 grand. Yep, that's all right. You got a life insurance policy with a mutual fund company or mutual insurance company for $1 million. Okay, great. Oh, I didn't know you had that. And we did that to try to make it as simple as possible, because simple, as you know, ain't easy, especially when you got complexity. We can always overcomplicate it. So that's really the roots of it. It's trying to solve that problem of communicating the complexity of all the financial stuff in your closet on one page or one screen. That was the deal.
I love it. I've said, I've used a couple analogies with people, and one of them is like the kitchen junk drawer, right? Everyone's got the kitchen junk drawer. Let's pull everything out and set it in the right place. And if you're listening and you're wondering what this even looks like, I would just ask you to look up what an asset map looks like to see what we're picturing. Another one that I use, Adam, is it doesn't matter if you have $10,000 or $100 million. It can all go on to the one page front of the asset map, right? Yep. And behind that could be 80 to 200 pages of a complex financial plan, but that one page is what people typically look at.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Sorry.
No, that's all right. So the last thing I was going to say about this is there are people that are listening are like, yeah, I'm organized. And there are many, many people that are like, I don't know where to begin or even start with this. But the people that think that they're already organized, let me tell you what I found as an advisor. And people are going to be nodding their head if they're into this. And they're going to say, yeah, I'm into it. I'm organized. I'm all set. That might be one spouse. The other spouse that is into the financial planning or into the organization as much, when we review with those folks or go over their stuff and we show that other spouse where everything is on one page, I'm telling you, so many times they have said, finally, this makes sense to me because it's all laid out. It's on one page. And those are all of the accounts. And I didn't think I was going to get into this, but we are doing some estate planning seminars coming up. And I have found, and you know this, Adam, being in the business for so long, when something happens to somebody and they are not organized, it can be really, really difficult to track things down and make things happen. So even on that part of it, not
Mhm.
obviously, while people are around and here we want to review an asset map and update, but when someone is gone, now, I mean, you mentioned a treasure map. So have you,
Mhm.
how helpful is that?
It's a really important point. One of the things that I think from years of experience of this, very few people want to talk about estate planning, right?
Yeah.
It's not comfortable, right? I'm living for the moment, or I'm living for a year from now. But let's be honest with each other, right? We do know between death and taxes that they are both certain, right?
Yeah.
And maybe inflation, by the way, now. Or interest rate rising. It's really important. The rubber hits the road at a couple of really pivotal points in our life. The day we tell our employer we're retiring, that makes it real. It's real. You better have a retirement plan, a distribution plan, an income plan. You got to have a tax management plan, because all these different accounts have to be optimized, or else you're going to run out of money. You have to have an income strategy. You have to have an estate strategy. You do not show up and say, hey, I think I'm going to retire tomorrow. You got to have this one plan. Unfortunately, too many people are arriving at death with no plan, or a default plan, which is really abysmal because it wrecks the household and taxes and so forth. But you really touched on something really important. Most people, most families have somebody in the family who is the go-to person for paying bills and knowing where everything is. They're likely using a system that works for themselves, Excel, an online service, Quicken, and they've got it managed for themselves. And then they're responsible in the family for taking care of the other party, right? The challenge is not only the fact that the other partner is not as intimately aware of where everything is and how to manage it, is that at death, if it's digital, all that stuff gets locked. And so the survivors in most households, and if they're older in age, and they don't necessarily, you're going through an emotional experience, you've just lost somebody important. Now you also, the bills still keep coming. I don't know if you know this, the bills from Comcast and AT&T, they still come. They got to be paid. And if the money is locked up, or it's in unclear spaces, or there are insurance policies and nobody knows they exist, or whether they're actually up to date, it becomes really emotionally irrelevant. And I have had situations where somebody who did some good things for their family, had a great reputation in life, you should hear how their family's talking about them for the next year. They're cursing that guy's name because he left them in a mess. Not because he was intentionally trying to make their lives miserable. He basically made an indecision. He didn't, or she didn't, get organized in a way that they could communicate at a highest level. Listen, this exists at Wells Fargo. Pick up the phone and call them. I'm not going to give you the statements. Just here's the treasure map. And I think you hit on it great. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing this for people, because estate planning is such a critical issue, and it matters a significant amount of the outcome if you're organized going in, even at a high level, in a way that you can communicate with each other. Here's a map. You're not lost if you have a map and directions, right? Here's the map. Here's the legal documents that go to support it, and the wills and the directives. Get that stuff in order and do that first.
A quick interruption. 6 Point Financial Partners is taking on new clients. If you would like to take the next step in planning your future with Dave or the 6 Point team, please visit them at www.sixpointfp.com to schedule a time, or reach out via LinkedIn, Facebook, or simply find us on the internet by searching 6 Point Financial Partners. Okay, back to the show.
Yeah, Adam, what I've been running into recently is folks that I run into, and unfortunately they've had parents passing away, which with our general population right now and the demographics, it's going to continue to happen. Obviously, what is it? 10,000 people every day are turning 65, which means population is basically aging. I would ask anybody that's listening, if they have parents that are getting older and this stuff is not done, just go have them get the stuff on one page and get an asset map done. I promise it will make you feel better. This is one of those things. It's like going to get your will or all those other things. Like it's a task. It could be, I don't want to deal with that. It's annoying, but once it's done, it's a giant weight off of the shoulders. Yeah. And even for the parents that don't want to disclose the dollar amounts, you said this, I don't want to tell you how much money I have, but I'm just telling you there's an account here. So helpful.
$1 works, by the way. You can always say, I got a bank account with $1. Let the kids go find out it's $20,000. Okay. It's more important to know that the chest is there and how to get into it, right? There's a key there. And I think, and you hit on it straight. By the way, we've gotten this process down to 15 minutes now, right? If you want to do it on your own, and I know, Dave, you can literally go to their site and get the link and do your discovery on your phone. And basically, I know that 6point at least can create an asset map for me from that high level information. The real interesting thing we've seen is that when you look at your life financially, your income sources, your assets, your liabilities, and your insurance policies, all those things are financial instruments, right? They have value. You're either paying for them or you owe money back for them, or they're worth something to you and your family, right? So I consider all those things assets. That's why it's called asset map. The point about that is that sometimes we as professionals, we know what peers have been doing. So when we look at that map, we can instantly say, boy, I see you're missing long-term care strategy. And this should be in trust because of your tax bracket. And why? I don't see an income strategy because you have no pension, or this pension's not optimized. So one of the things that's really important is that just like a financial x-ray, having the right radiologist read that x-ray matters. If you're dealing with somebody who's not familiar with looking at your life holistically, and they just look at, let's say they're a specialist, you wouldn't go to a cardiologist if you had some general back pain, right? The key is for us as professionals to look at this, identify them, look at the map and say, you know what, let's overlay what your peers are doing. And I see a couple things that are missing, or you'd want to know, because there's some other, successful people that have done this. It allows us to bring ideas to the table and point out not only the broken bones, but also the dark spots that I think a lot of people miss because we have that expertise interpreting the map. So as simple, rich Mickey Mouse as it can be for our customers, sometimes they appreciate simplicity. For those of us that are technical, we know actually how to interpret and ask the question beyond what we see, which sometimes really reveals the bigger issues.
No doubt about it. Well, one of the biggest that I find consistently is folks that have a pension and a 401k, or a pension and a 403b, and they've been saving into those things for a really long time. And you can look at a map in 5 seconds as a financial professional and say, hey, we should be diversifying into some after-tax savings if that isn't happening, which we'll save that for a different podcast. But you're totally right. We can look at it very quickly and then determine the holes and then go over it step by step with the plan. Well, actually, I want to tell you one more example that I found where this has been useful is spouses that don't typically discuss finances.
Yep.
And one spouse is annoyed with another spouse because they're consistently asking. When we deliver the asset map and I say, hey, take this to the person that's asking, it has worked every time. They say, thank you for doing this so much. So anyway, that makes a lot of sense. But I wanted to ask you about, obviously, the pandemic and these things that have happened. Where we have found success with asset map is, I'll just use Zoom as an example. We can go on a Zoom meeting, pull up an asset map, everything is on one page, and then we can literally just go around the map and update accounts as we go in person. And we could say things like, hey, there was 350,000 in this account 6 months ago. Now there's 412,000 where we're contributing, and people love to just see those changes. And then they get an email copy of a map when the meeting is done. People love that. But what I wanted to ask you was, even beyond the finances, can you speak to like what else can you do on the map that makes sense? And I know it gets into more than one page, but we also had other financial partners on there.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Look, the modern financial family is not the typical, 2 persons and 2 kids. It's very often, as you mentioned, it's our aging parents, right? Because we're seeing the sandwich generation really appear strong now, right? We're taking care of parents that maybe have planned for retirement well, and they're living longer than they expected. Maybe long-term care is going to hit them, and they're going to be dependent in some measure. So we are seeing this. And so it's important to put both generations up and down. If there are people you're doing business with and you have financial obligations to each other, right? I see a lot of people that they got into residential real estate a couple of years ago, and they bought properties with their buddies, but nobody's asked the question, well, God forbid, what happens if one of your partners dies? Are you going to be owning this rental property with their spouse? And do you like that idea? And if you don't, like, you don't get along, you need an exit plan. I need to think about that, right? So I know a lot of customers came to us in financial advice and said, I really want to focus on retirement. I want to focus on retirement income. And we found that the bigger problem was really an exposure that they just didn't think to tell us. Once you put it on the map, it allows us the transparency to see and now actually apply yours and my collective intelligence to their life. So one of the things I think that consumers typically don't understand the value of is disclosure of their financial decisions and choices. If they're not transparent to the professional doesn't know to ask a deeper question for which they have expertise. For example, we have a lot of training on legal and tax choices where we might choose to bring in a professional to say, wait a minute, this is a huge problem. Nobody ever mentioned this before. We always talking about the IRA or the 403B. Look, I can add value here that's worth thousands of dollars, if not hours of heartache. And I think that's the key, is if we can get to a place of true transparency between ourselves and our clients, not only who they have obligations to, even other advisors, maybe we can actually collaborate around this asset map and try to make better decisions together.
No doubt about it. And also at the top of the map, what I see is like the spouse's names, the kids' names, or a spouse and kids, whoever it might be.
Yeah.
We're putting in the attorney, the accountant, the P&C insurance person. So, and any advisor can use this to make sure if there are updates needed or if something happens. Now we know the attorney to reach out to, and it's just the name at the top of the page, and a simple internet search can find that person. The CPA on a yearly basis for the right clients. We're reaching out at the end of the year to do tax planning. We're reaching out right after taxes are done. And then also the P&C insurance person. How many people out there are actually getting a quote? I mean, this annoys them like crazy, the P&C people. When I say P&C, I'm talking about homeowners and auto insurance.
Yeah, property casualty, sure.
Umbrella policy, right? So how many people are actually reaching out to that person saying, hey, run me some new numbers. I'm considering doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, we've been able to save clients a lot of money just by putting in our calendar and being organized. Every May, our client's P&C person is going to get an email from Dave or the team. Again, it probably annoys them, but it saves our clients money, right? So all of that stuff is on an asset map. So that is pretty much everything I can think of. Am I missing anything, Adam? Like, if all those professionals are on there,
are you missing anything? Yeah, we could go for 2 hours on what you could do with this thing. I mean, it's like it's an amoeba. It's a Lego project. You could keep building on it. I think it's a great point, Dave. We have seen a bunch of different iterations of people using asset map and interpreting it in different ways. Some people use it just for their businesses, right? They actually put in the employee benefits and all kinds of other decisions that are happening. So they help to organize their company and they actually know where all their money's going. Or if they have trust, and there's some really complicated, fun stuff you can do as well. We've even seen, I wanted to see what my balance sheet looks like at death. Like, can I see a beneficiary statement of who's getting what? Wait a minute, I didn't know that she's getting that. That's not right. There's interesting things that happen when you start to actually organize your closet. You think about it. If we went to anybody's, house right now, we did like a little road trip. We found one of our listeners, maybe it's you who's listening. We went to your closet and we went in there. It's an intimate place. You don't let other people, strangers in there, but we're going to do it anyway. We take everything in your clothes closet. We just dump it out on the bed. I guarantee you there is stuff in that pile that you don't like, that doesn't fit, that is too small. You're not going to get into it. Sorry. I have the same thing in my closet. It's got rips in it. You should have thrown it away. Okay. But you didn't, because remember it from high school, whatever it is. Right. Your old jerseys and stuff you've kept. I know I kept all my athletic jerseys, right? If someone else was with me, I would probably be, okay, you're right. I'm never going to wear it again. Please make space and put the stuff that I'm going to use in there. So there's a cathartic process that happens when you finally are transparent and organize this stuff. Not only the stuff, but the people who wear that stuff need to be on that map, because that's why we do everything. We do all this financial junk because of the people and the value and the meaning we're trying to create. And so if we don't put them on the top of the map, we're missing out. And that's why I would really kind of implore people. I'm really glad to hear that you're doing this, because you're optimizing this for your customers. You see the benefit. You've got that vision at 6 Point. I think it's really cool that you're able actually to execute it. Takes diligence. So that's really important to people these days.
It does. And I'll tell you what, and this is a challenge for the folks out there, is I have yet to find ever, and I'm not exaggerating, and you know this, Adam, that you can go do this and help somebody out in some way. It's almost impossible that somebody has this fully down and organized and taken care of fully.
Yep.
I've never run into it. I've met with thousands of people through myself or my team, and I've never, ever seen where this is fully done. So,
well, here's a challenge to everybody, right? So here's a challenge. So if you're that person who believes they've got their stuff all together, right? Create an asset map and just see if we can do a second opinion, right? Is there a second opinion, second set of eyes that could put on your full asset map, all your stuff, assets? I'm not talking about holdings and whether your investment performance is better than anybody else's. I'm talking about, do you have the right structure? That is a fantastic value proposition, because if we can communicate as a community, as advisors and professionals, to a consumer and say, yes, you're doing these things great, but I noticed you're missing this. Is it because you didn't tell me, or you didn't do it, or because you don't care? And let's make that an intentional decision as opposed to a haphazard or uninformed one. Because I guarantee you there's something I see on every single asset map, even for my own customers that have been working for 10 years. It's always a way to tweak something, right?
Every time. That's why I was saying that. So what's the, and I know the answer to this because I read about it. What's the asset map mission? I love it.
To put an asset map on every fridge in the planet.
I love it. And listen, this goes back to you don't have to put your millions of dollars on the fridge or your lack of millions of dollars.
Yeah, you can put a dollar.
Put $1.
Right. It's not important you tell your kids where their money is, right? Their 529 plans. You don't have to tell them, but
they don't need
they should. But isn't this an interesting aspect though? I want to ask you to think about this for a second. What would happen to society in general if our kids, who tend to go in the fridge and put their artwork and our photos and the numbers to call if there's an emergency and you poison yourself, right? And Nana's number, right? So that's what lives on most people's fridges in America, at least, right? If we actually had the opportunity to teach our kids how to organize financially from day one, what do you think that would mean to their life? How could you communicate with them making good choices? What kind of decisions might they make differently if from day one they were indoctrinated in the idea that, yes, I want to save, and yes, I need to have some set aside for charitable causes, and I need to have insurances, and I need to have, et cetera, right? I think it's an aspirational moment, David, that we can enable for customers if they're willing to go through this level of transparency, right? Some people just keep it in their top drawer. Okay, they're not going to put it on the fridge, but it's literally just like a vision board. It creates aspiration. And I think that's something we should all be looking for, is financial literacy, and of course, creating financial wherewithal for our next generations.
No doubt about it, for so many things. Again, that's a different podcast, right? We could talk about that for hours and hours, talking about the benefits of children becoming financially literate. So Adam, you're a busy guy. We've gone long enough. I could talk to you for 3 days about this stuff. So, and we appreciate your time. Where can our advisor listeners find you?
Well, you can probably Google at this point. You can Google me or look for asset map. There's a hyphen in between asset and map.com. And certainly we're all over the place. Right now we're the highest rated financial planning tool in the country. I think because we're doing it differently, we're really connecting with people. So yeah, we're always happy to grow our community of advisors who think like you do, David, and want to deliver more value.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they can help the mission of getting one on every fridge or in every drawer.
It's going to happen with or without you. Yeah, it's happening. It's going to happen.
Just I love it. So if somebody listening wants to get their asset map done, where can they find an advisor that can help them with that?
You can certainly go to assetmap.com and search through the thousands of advisors. But frankly, I would just say that 6 Point has been such a prolific user. More importantly, there are so many advisors that have grown into Asset Map. You've been using it for years, right? Mm-hmm. So your ability to interpret an asset map very quickly and bring ideas to the table, that expertise is really valuable. And I don't think people should short shrift it. So if you are listening and you do need a second opinion, you should reach out to David and his team and get that perspective, just because it makes good sense. There's no commitment, right? I mean, they can do this and figure out if it's a good fit, but either way, get the perspective now. Don't wait until you arrive and learn that you're missing. Nobody packed the suntan lotion and you moved to Florida, right? You want to find that out before you move.
So yeah, this wasn't meant to be an advertisement for 6 Point, but
no, it's not.
With that said, if someone came to us and there was a glaring need and we pointed it out, and then we decide it's a good fit for them and a good fit for us, of course we can move forward. If we point it out and we decide it's not, that's fine too. We just trying to help people. So Adam, again, we appreciate your time, and we will we'll catch up soon. Thank you, and make it a great day.
Absolutely. Thanks for everything you're doing. Bye, David.
Thank you for listening to the Dear Rochester Retire Well podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of 6 Point Financial Partners. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.
Securities offered through American Portfolios Financial Services, Inc., APFS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through American Portfolios Advisors, Inc., APA, an SEC-registered investment advisor. 6 Point Financial is not affiliated with APFS and APA. This material is for informational purposes only. Neither APFS nor its representatives provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Please consult your own tax, legal, or accounting professional before making any decisions.